There once was a small village nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, a place where life moved at the gentle pace of the seasons. In this village lived a young woman named Ilara, known for her warm smile and the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from her presence. Though she was not wealthy or famous, Ilara possessed a gift that few recognized at first: a heart open to the world and a soul deeply attuned to the needs of others.
Ilara grew up in a humble cottage on the edge of the village, her days filled with simple joys, tending to her mother's vegetable garden, reading borrowed books by candlelight, and walking through the wildflower meadows that surrounded her home. She learned early that life could be hard, but also that kindness, like sunlight, could break through even the darkest clouds. One autumn, as the leaves turned to gold and crimson, a terrible storm swept through the region. The river, usually gentle and meandering, burst its banks and flooded the fields. Many in the village lost their crops, and some their homes. The air grew heavy with worry and sorrow. Yet in the midst of this hardship, Ilara sought not to retreat, but to reach out. She began by visiting her neighbors. To the elderly widow who had lost her garden, Ilara brought baskets of food preserved from her own harvest. To the family whose roof had collapsed, she offered shelter and shared what little she had. Quietly, she organized others in the village, encouraging those who could spare a loaf of bread, a blanket, or a few hours of labor to help those in need. Word of Ilara's kindness spread, and soon the village square became a place of gathering and support. People who had once passed each other with little more than a nod now shared laughter, stories, and dreams. The hardship, while not erased, was softened by the bonds that grew between neighbors. But Ilara's actions reached further than she knew. Among those she helped was a young boy named Tomas, whose family had lost their home. Tomas was quiet and withdrawn, carrying the weight of worry for his family. Ilara noticed his sadness and, instead of offering only words, she invited him to join her in the garden. Together, they planted seeds for the next season, their hands working the soil side by side. As they worked, Ilara spoke gently of hope, that even after the harshest storms, the earth could yield new life. She shared stories of her own childhood, of times when she too had felt afraid or alone, and how acts of kindness had lifted her spirit. Slowly, Tomas began to open up, his eyes brightening with each passing day. Through this simple act, Ilara nourished more than just the soil. She nourished a young heart, planting the seeds of resilience and compassion. Tomas, in turn, began to help others, helping rebuild fences, carrying water, and sharing laughter with children who had forgotten how to smile. As the seasons changed, the village transformed. Gardens flourished anew, homes were rebuilt, and the bonds of community grew stronger than ever. The villagers discovered that in caring for one another, they found a wellspring of strength and joy that no storm could wash away. Ilara's story did not end with the return of prosperity. She knew that life would always bring challenges, but she also knew the power of a nourished heart and soul. She continued to listen, to offer comfort and hope, to plant seeds of kindness wherever she went. Others, inspired by her example, carried her spirit forward, each act of generosity rippling outward, touching lives in ways unseen. Years later, when Ilara was an old woman, she would walk through the village and see the fruits of her quiet labor. Children played in the meadows, elders shared wisdom by the fireside, and neighbors greeted one another with genuine affection. The village had become a place where hearts were nourished, not just by bread, but by the simple, enduring power of love and compassion. Ilara would often sit beneath the shade of a great oak tree, her favorite spot since childhood. Sometimes she would be joined by Tomas, now grown, who had become a teacher and mentor to the next generation. Together, they would watch the sun set over the hills and reflect on the journey they had shared. In moments like these, Ilara would remind Tomas, and anyone who cared to listen, that true strength is not measured by wealth or fame, but by the courage to care, the willingness to reach out, and the patience to nurture what is good and true in ourselves and others. She would say, "Every heart has its seasons. There will be storms, but there will also be sunlight. When we nourish each other with kindness, understanding, and hope, we help the whole world to bloom. And so, the village thrived, not because it was free from hardship, but because its people had learned the value of nourishing the hearts and souls around them. Alara's legacy lived on in every act of generosity, every shared smile, every hand offered in friendship. In the end, her story is a reminder to us all that in a world often marked by struggle and uncertainty, the most powerful gift we can offer is the nourishment of the human spirit. By caring for one another, by planting seeds of hope and kindness, we create a garden of compassion that endures beyond the storms, a legacy that nourishes hearts and souls for generations to come.
Please like and subscribe my L&E channel for more entertainments with great things and stories. Thank you for all your support.